Hi, everybody. It's 1,769 days. It's been a wild day, y'all. It's been a good, really, really good day. When you hit the mother load and uncover what we have uncovered today, it is just absolutely amazing and shocking. And you just it takes you at least a day to recover from the celebration. But when it comes to this information, there's a real evil element to it because it involves Richard's murder, right? And so yeah, it's bittersweet. So I'm going to explain it to you. Today, it is June 6, 2025. We're burning the midnight oil. Try to come on a little bit earlier, but you can't, um, this requires so much dedication, a lot of time, and you're really, you have to cut your amount of sleep. Cut your amount of sleep, that's for sure. So let me explain what day 1,769 days since Richard was forcibly removed from his barracks room on Fort Bliss in El Paso, Texas, and his life was taken from him. And this was not, a spur of the moment. This was absolutely orchestrated. Before we explain that to everybody, we just want to give a few updates. I have a few notes here that I wanted to do earlier today. I wanted to address the El Paso Independent School District superintendent resigning. This is a very, very big deal in the scope of things that are going on in El Paso. A huge change is happening. It's a shakeup, right? It's a huge shakeup of power. And so the El Paso ISD superintendent resignation displays that shakeup. That's what that is. And Maria Aguiar, the finance person for El Paso ISD, she's just an interim superintendent. So it's going to be very interesting. It's kind of like the AUSA for the Western District of Texas, also resigning. That was Margaret Leachman. She also resigned, and you have a Mr. Simmons as an interim. And so this is another example of the shaking. There's like an earthquake in the power structure in El Paso, is really, really shaking. And the motherlode of information that was uncovered today is going to shake things up even more. So there are those individuals that are in positions, and you wouldn't believe it, y'all, but they're everywhere. They're everywhere. And that's why it's so difficult to get things quickly, to get the changes quickly, to get the accountability quickly, because you have to wade through um, these traders that are in these positions that are absolutely covering up for the criminal enterprise, the criminal cabal, the criminal network, whatever you want to call it, the cartel-tied criminal network, the cartel-tied criminal trafficking network, the cartel-tied um, contracting con jobs, getting these contracts. And, we're in debt because of these these individuals that have absolutely turned our institutions into some kind of business plan to get these huge bloated contracts and protect the criminal trafficking. And and so there's a shakeup, and you see the shakeup in DC also. And the shakeup involves the president of the United States, a billionaire, a billionaire. President Trump is not any type of president. He's a billionaire in his own right. He's a builder. He owns hotels. He owns golf courses. He is service minded, right? When you own hotels and golf courses and um, everything that he does is for uh, to make it luxurious, that people will want to come, will want to repeat come, will want to pay high dollar for it. And you hear a lot of stories how he views things differently, what he's done to the Oval Office. He has made it more beautiful. And people, go into the Oval Office now 4 months into his presidency, and they're like, wow, wow, look at this. This is such a special place. And it is a special place. It's probably, if not one of the most special places in the whole world. It is just magnificent. And he knows that. He knows the value of property, of a place, the value of a place. I mean, he bought Turnberry, right? He bought Turnberry, which is the birthplace of Robert the Bruce. And it was in ruins. And this is in Scotland. And he revived it all. He revived it all. And you know what? Sometimes he doesn't get thanks from the Scottish there, because they're so hypnotized. They have such brainwashing. They can't see the beautiful Turnberry now, and all of the profit that's coming into that area, all the business it brought into that area, because that hotel and that golf course were rebirthed. It's amazing. And of course, the historic setting of it makes it even more luxurious and more wanting to go there. I've wanted to go there, to Turnberry, because I love the original Spider Man. I love Robert the Bruce, who never, ever, ever gave up. Never, ever give up. I mean, that comes from Robert the Bruce. Where do you think Trump learned it? He learned it from Robert the Bruce. Of course he did. His mother's Scottish. And, the lesson from Robert the Bruce was, you never, ever, ever give up. You fight, fight, fight. You fight for what's right. And, yeah, so that comes from him. And so this little tit for tat going on between two billionaires with Elon Musk, I think it's going to end pretty quick. I mean, you're talking about the president of the United States, the most powerful man, who happens to be a billionaire, who absolutely told everybody what he is going to do. Not everyone, really believed that he would actually be able to do what he wants to do in Washington, D.C. But the people voted for him overwhelmingly. So he got an overwhelming mandate, um, from the people to do what he's doing. And it's those that are in all of these places that are trying to protect the criminal business plan of grand theft larceny through these contracts. And I'm not saying all the contracts, but I'm talking about they've really they've taken advantage. You give an inch, they take a mile. You give a mouse a cookie, and they took off. They just took off in grand theft larceny. Um, and you see it. And of course, the compromising agent in all of this is the criminal trafficking. And that's why you had Epstein Island to compromise those to shut people up. Then you had the P. Diddy to compromise those that have following, the Hollywood people, to make sure that they, shut up and allow the criminal trafficking to do that, and to for personal gain. And then you have what was going on Fort Bliss, with our soldiers, to compromise our soldiers so that they would not be able to speak up and be patriots that they were, because they joined to serve, and they're patriots, and yet they were compromised. And it's a blackmail with all of these tricks and entrapments and situations, with peer situations that they put them in, and then film it all and everything like that. And they absolutely compromise our soldiers so much, our service members, that they can't be whistleblowers, that they can't really, because of the retaliation. And with Richard, he was uncompromised, but they retaliated against him, right? They retaliated fiercely, and continuously against him. And so this whole thing with Elon Musk, this tit for tat, this bromance that, now they're, uh, you know, look, President Trump is the president of the United States. He's the most powerful man in the world. And because that position is because of our country. Our country's magnificent. It is such a huge economy that it can withstand the most terrible abuses. And here we are, and he's still the most powerful position in the world. And Elon Musk is the richest man in the world, right? He's the richest man in the world. And so with that comes a lot, expectations, what, because he's so used to controlling his enterprise. Um, and so, when he is not in total control, when he's not the most, he's not duly elected. He's not the duly elected president of the United States. Um, President Trump is. And President Trump doesn't share that easily, right? He doesn't share that position because the people voted for him, not for Elon. Now, Elon is the richest man, so I think they'll work it out. I think they'll end up for the United States, for the good of the United States. But there is so much, I want to call it the deep state. There is so much corruption surrounding them, and so many, uh, you know, Job, his friends whispering in his ear. So you have all these people whispering in your ears, giving you advice, all these advisors, and sometimes you just need to say, "Get behind me, Satan," right? Just get behind me, Satan. I'm not going to listen to you. Sometimes you need to take the advice, right? But you have a lot of them. Oh my gosh, because they have all these interests, right? They have all of these contract interests. They have, like the EV subsidies, all these subsidies. They want the money. They want the money, and it's all about money and control of the money, the contracts that make all the money. But in Elon's case, he's the richest man in the world, and he has the drones. He has these drones, and they're going to work it out. They're going to work it out because, there's too much money involved, and too much personal interest involved, and both of them care about their legacy. Their legacy. That is very, very important. It's very important for our family, legacy, what people will write throughout history about our family, about each individual one of us. That's very important to us, and for the president of the United States, it's even more important because he absolutely will. His legacy will be read. Will be read. Our legacy might just be forgotten, right? Maybe not. Maybe not after all of this, because I think we're like the top of the biggest helpers of President Trump and even Elon Musk. We want the same. And so we want justice, and we want a strong country, and we want a strong economy, which would do everybody good. So, but we want it to be just. We don't want it to be criminal. We don't want it to be criminal, so that people have to be entrapped and compromised with this terrible um, criminal trafficking maneuvers, um, and terrible culture, and the sex cult, and the doggy mask cult, um, and being filmed, and have more Epsteins, and have more P Diddy's, and um, we don't want it. We don't want it. So we want purity of heart. Blessed are the pure in heart, right? Blessed are the peacemakers. But we want the Beatitudes. That's what we want. We want the Beatitudes. So, um, so I think it's gonna work out. The other thing was this whole FBI uh, broadcast, with Minerva, FBI Minerva Shelton with Michael Cordero. Now, I wanted to make sure that everyone knew, because we confirmed it, that Michael Cordero has nothing to do with Julio Cordero, okay, with Operation Poison Pond. They are not related, as brothers are not brothers. There's three brothers in the FBI. Michael Cordero is not one of them. I think that was a little confusing, a little confusing. I hope that was an intentional deception. There's a lot of intentional deceptions going on. I hope that's not what that was, by FBI Minerva Shelton, Taurus Shelton. I hope that wasn't intentional deception. But now, the problem was, and we were very excited when we got news that there was going to be, a broadcast discussing the Walmart mass shooting. But when we looked into it, and when we saw the announcement, and we saw that this was FBI agents that were retired, that were, telling the public that the FBI had lied about the Walmart mass shooting, we knew that was stinky. That was stinky when they were working on the case, and we thought, "Oh, is that illegal?" Yeah, I think that's illegal, because FBI agents, even though they're retired, they have to follow regulations. Are very heavily regulated to maintain the reputation of the FBI. And, and I know the FBI doesn't have a good reputation. I know that. But when you are an FBI retired agent, you still have to do that, right? And here they weren't, they weren't. And uh, so we, uh, expressed our concerns about that. And now we have confirmed that broadcast um, did not go forward. That broadcast did not go forward. It was stopped. It was absolutely stopped. And so, maybe we had a hand in it. We hope we did, because I think that we helped um, FBI, retired FBI Shelton and Cordero on this, with no relation to Julio Cordero. But we hope that we helped them, prevented them from really committing a crime, or a violation of their regulations. We hope that we help them um, and save them from, really some bad trouble that could come their way. So we're glad that didn't go forward. Um, and that was a big deal. That was a big deal. And we hope, that they weren't up to no good behind the scenes, but we have to give everyone the benefit of the doubt, right? We have to help everybody as much as we can in El Paso, because they're also targeted. El Paso has been so targeted, with the medical examiner being illegal and unqualified, with the El Paso criminal law magistrate court and not having elected judges, which is, a disenfranchise of the people, that targets the people. And who are these unauthorized individuals that call themselves judges on that? Really, they're just faking it, right? They're just faking it. And then you have, of course, the DA's office, which is just shambles. They just target El Pasoans, of course, because they don't have a prosecutor, and they're paying big taxes for it. They're paying big taxes to have a prosecutor, and then they don't have a legitimate prosecutor. So they're being targeted everywhere you look. In the federal courthouse, you have the Mayela Crucius family that absolutely lied. And you know what the quid pro quo did to keep it silent, that they're family members of Patrick Crucius? And their daughter is married to Patrick Crucius's brother. Do you know what that did? That obstruction of justice, the division in El Paso. I mean, it was such a targeting of El Pasoans. I mean, it's so criminal. It's absolutely so criminal. So, you know, we have to do what we can uh, to restore. We cannot give up on El Paso at all. We can't give it up to the CCP entrapped, or I just think of it as a web that the cartel-tied organizations that are going on in El Paso with all this criminal enterprise, that they're caught in this web of the CCP, right? Um, and it is, it's not me reporting that. Me discovering that. It's me just reporting what's already been confirmed in the news, that there's a real problem. And Juarez is just a mess right now, right? They're just a mess. You had in May 80 executions. I mean, their security is totally breached. And their government security is breached. I mean, you have generals being executed. Um, it's just a lawlessness, absolute lawlessness, and we don't want that to come over to El Paso, and we have to absolutely fight for El Paso. Fight, because El Paso is an ancient city. It's beautiful, the history, and right there on the border, and the culture of it, and the people. It's just wonderful. It's a wonderful place, and it's dry heat. I love dry heat. Um, and we got to get rid of these water mafia people to bring in water in the area. Can you imagine the free flow of water? It's just like you got the water mafia there in California too. And you have it there. And I remember because when I was younger, the Rio Grande, it was absolutely flowing. Even then it had water mafia, but it was flowing even better then than what it is today. When we were there in 2020, I can speak for crossing the bridge like almost three dozen times. Um, so and of course, looking for our son, looking for answers about what happened to our son. And this is where we really need to protect El Pasoans and Americans. Americans. We have today, like I said, we have the Motherlode. We have the Motherlode on Bob Moore and his wife, Kathleen Gannon. Bob Moore, of course, is El Paso Matters, and Kathleen Gannon. Well, El Paso Matters, mother, or um, Prime. Well, what do you go? I'm trying to think of the right word. Is funded by El Paso Community Foundation. That's what I want to say. And it'll come, it's almost 1 o'clock in the morning here. But El Paso Matters is funded by El Paso Community Foundation. And, and it's Bob Moore primarily. It's been Bob Moore. Um, uh, you have, I think it's Christine Sanchez. Is now the editor. And maybe that's because of all what we have exposed, that Bob Moore is up to no good, right? That he's up to no good. But his wife is Kathleen Gannon, is KTEP, and they have this long history with El Paso Times. They have a big history with El Paso Times. Matter of fact, El Paso Matters is tenants of El Paso Times in their building. So, and how do we know that? Because, we've tried to contact them over 15 times, telling them that what they've written is a false narrative on our son. But they wanted no comments from the Gold Star family. They didn't want any comments. They didn't want to talk to us. And now we know why. So this is going to be really hard for people to take. But the evidence that we have uncovered today, the mother lode, the golden nugget, whatever you want to call it, it's absolutely devastating for El Paso Matters and Bob Moore and KTEP and Kathleen Gannon. Absolutely devastating, because it proves beyond any reasonable doubt that they were part of the conspiracy. They were part of the conspiracy in the murder case of our son. Before our son was murdered. They were part of the conspiracy. They were absolutely part of the conspiracy to do our son harm, to target our son, and the retaliation against our son, and in the murder of our son. It's huge, y'all. Bob Moore of El Paso Matters and Kathleen Gannon of KTEP that have history with El Paso Times, that El Paso Matters is a tenant of El Paso Times, were absolutely beyond any reasonable doubt part of the conspiracy to target Richard, retaliate against Richard, and in the murder of Richard. And I might have to say it one more time. And I wanted to talk about Michael Ruggiero tonight and Gema, his wife, Gema Saboteur. Really, she's a Queller. I hope I say that name right, but she's a Ruggiero. Gema Ruggiero, they knew. But this news came out today, and we're right now we're not at liberty to tell you what exactly that evidence is, but we can tell you because um, it's it's like, okay, we know now why they did what they did, but it's I'd be lying to you if I didn't tell you. We're not allowed to get emotional, right? We're not allowed to get emotional, and we have to control it, our emotions, so that we can get justice for Richard, so that we can get justice for El Paso. Because what is going on with El Paso Matters, with KTEP, with Bob Moore, with his wife, Kathleen Gannon, is so criminal. You understand? It is the conspiracy to target, retaliate, and murder the Fort Bliss whistleblower soldier who was reporting on criminal trafficking. And then to target the investigation to put out false narratives, to obstruct justice, to intimidate witnesses, to target witnesses, to target whistleblowers, to retaliate against whistleblowers. The level of this crime that El Paso Matters and Bob Moore with Kathleen Gannon and KTEP have engaged in, facilitated, propagated, has been confirmed. It has been confirmed that they did it with hard evidence to mislead the people. And just to let you know, if they did this in Richard's case, it is also for the Walmart case and for other cases. And we'll explain that in the next couple days. But this is absolutely, and because this information is new and we're not at liberty to tell you all the details at this time, we have to wrap our heads around this. So if you have experiences and evidence of El Paso Matters and Bob Moore and KTEP and Kathleen Gannon conspiring to target, retaliate, do the worst type of crimes, and then report on it in order to obstruct it, to intimidate witnesses, to retaliate against witnesses, to control a narrative for personal gain, or to protect cartel operations in El Paso, then please send us that information. because that is what just happened today. It was the Motherlode. It was the Motherlode against Bob Moore and El Paso Matters, including Kathleen Gannon and KTEP. So that's I think I covered just about. I just want to say thank you to Anicia for coming on, for your prayers and your love constantly. That's why we're finding these nuggets, right? Because of your prayers, because of your support, because of your love. And we're growing, even though very clearly we're being shadow banned because, um, when you do certain searches, you can tell we're being shadow banned. So to share our information on your platform would be very, very helpful in saving El Paso, really. Um, in, in this huge, it's like an earthquake is going off. Um, and it's a friendly earthquake to those that are wanting El Paso to be restored to a law abiding, beautiful borderland city with amazing culture. That's what we want. And yeah, so any kind of sharing will really help, very much so. And all your comments are very appreciative. Um, and that's really because we are a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. And you can see what's going on in Washington, D.C. And, so you cannot just let them do it, right? We have to be fully engaged as Americans for our communities and for our country. And so, if we want justice, if we want accountability in any of our cases, you know, um, then we need to have a justice system that we can depend on, that is legitimate. And we need a functioning country um, and in our communities. So that we can really have peace, right? That we can have um, let the good times roll, right? Then we can let the good times roll if we don't have all of this criminal trafficking activity and all the crime that goes with it, and all the crime that goes with it, and all the pain that goes with it. So thank you so much. And we just want to say, God bless you. And we want the Beatitudes. And thanks for your kind words on my picture. I got some messages for my picture, my high school band picture when I was a high kicker. That was good training. That was really good training. I, and I still can do the splits. I can still do the splits. It, taught me how to kick high up there, high, and and do it with w- uh, what can I say? To make people um, benefit from it. So thank you so much. God bless you, and I will be back tomorrow.